So Eli, thanks for taking time out for the Art of Fearlessly Doing Business interview. You're number 4 in the 2017 series. Tell the folks who you are and a little bit about your business.
My name is Eli Hall. I own AMS Landscaping out of Phoenix, Arizona. We focus primarily on residential maintenance, and we do commercial and HOAs as well, but primarily focus on maintenance and irrigation repair.
And you do weed control too, right?
Yeah, we do any type of aspect when it comes to maintenance, whether it's one-time maintenance cleanups or residual weekly, bi-weekly service, 4-week service. We have customers that contact us every 2-3 months to do a cleanup. We do a lot of irrigation repair, and we also do some capital improvements, like we'll add granite to people's homes when the granite gets thin, or we'll redo an irrigation system if their system gets old.
Okay.
We'll throw in a couple trees or plants. We do those smaller jobs. We just don't do full-fledged installation from start to finish.
Okay. So tell me, why did you start your business or get into your business?
So I actually took over my grandfather's business. I started working for him when I was 15 on the weekends, and I always had a job, and I knew that he was getting older, and I wanted to go to work for him, so I actually quit my job and took a pay cut to go to work for him. And he helped me. Obviously, I learned the business from him. He was kind of a one-truck operation. He was old school.
What was his name?
His name was Hugo Champy. It was actually Champy's Lawn Service is what it was called back then. And I took it over. He passed away in '99. I took it over March of '99, and I changed the name. And I knew I didn't want to just keep pushing a mower on my own. It was a one crew. There was 3 of us. We go around and just did a whole bunch of accounts, a really tight niche area in Central Phoenix. And I knew I wanted to expand. I wanted to make it a real business. So I knew if I could start another truck and then another truck, eventually I could get out of the truck.
Right, right.
So I started a second crew, and I would work with just one guy. And I remember, I forwarded all the calls to my cell phone. I had an office line, but I would forward the calls during the day, so I answered every call. If I was on a mower, I would stop and answer the phone. It was a big selling point for me in the early days. And if I was going to be in someone's area on Thursday, that was when I was doing the bid. And I would just drop the laborer off to do the job that was nearby, and then I'd run over to do the estimate. And I just grew the business organically that way. I did a lot of advertising in the phone book. If you can remember the phone book.
Yeah, the phone book.
And the newspaper. Remember when people read newspapers?
Yeah.
I did a lot of advertising that way. There was a lot of referrals, a lot of word of mouth. And I just knew if I could get 3 trucks, I wouldn't have to be in a truck any longer. And that was the case.
What does AMS stand for?
So when I first took the business over from my grandfather, I changed the name to Always Cutting. It was Always Cutting Landscape Maintenance, and I was that for a few years. I actually picked up a partner in 2004. It was just a short partnership. It ended well. It was just he targeted homeowner associations, and he wanted to name the company Association Maintenance Services.
Oh, okay.
And I like the idea. He had all the contacts for the homeowner associations, and I actually grew quite quickly. From 2004 to 2005, I doubled my sales with that partnership. And then he ended up going another direction with the management company that he was involved with, and because of that, they kind of just said, there's too much conflict here.
Right.
A lot of the homeowner associations didn't want the management company affiliated with the landscape company. So instead of having a brawl about it, he just said, you know what, we're growing so fast here. He was taking property management across the country. They were going to be the first franchisee for property management. And a local landscaper wasn't going to help them. It was just kind of holding
So you just kept the name because you'd already built a reputation.
Yeah, and they let me keep all those clients. And actually, I grew for another year after that with that property management company, even though we weren't affiliated any longer. And it was a great ride. It was fun, and we dissolved the relationship as far as a business aspect, but we remain friends today.
That's unusual, actually. When so congratulations on being able to do that.
Yeah, it was very
usually
fortunate.
when you have a bad partner and it's a breakup, it's not usually a good one.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad partnership at all. It was just they had another direction they were going, and in fact, they probably looked at it like I was holding them back.
Right.
So it was better off for them to move on without me, and it was better for me. It was a win-win, and how often can that work out, right?
So when you started your company, you were a young guy. So what was the first big fear that you had to kind of overcome to make the decision to take over your grandparents' company?
You know, it wasn't a fear. I guess I did take a pay cut when I went to go to work for my grandfather, knowing that eventually I'd get the business. Fortunate for me, I was able to cut out a lot of my bills. I went to go live with him. You know? So that helped.
That's the benefit of being a family business, especially an Italian one.
It was relatively low risk, and I knew, I mean, owning a business had to be better. I was still young, you know, I think I was 23, I think, when I went to go work full time for him and quit my... And I was making, I want to say I was making 100, 150 a week more with my previous company. Mm-hmm. That I took the pay cut knowing that there was going to be a benefit, there was going to be a payoff at the end.
So you had to kind of go backwards to go forwards.
Yeah, and for me it wasn't much of a risk. I actually had just gone
You're 23, so...
And I had just gone through divorce.
Wow.
So I was too young for that marriage anyway. It was a learning experience for me, and for me to be able to start over, timing was just perfect.
Great.
So I didn't look at it much as a risk. I would say a bigger risk for me, or roadblocks or bumps that I've hit, were when I was young and I first got off the truck. I didn't know what to do with myself. This was even before I had 3 trucks. I would remember I would take the summers off, and I would say, like, you know, I'm just going to sell. I have these 2 crews. Actually, I had 2 crews at the time, and I'm like, I'm just going to sell for them. And when I didn't get calls, I wasn't out hustling. And I learned that when I wasn't hustling, I was spending money.
Oh, because you're bored.
Yeah, I was a 26-year-old, 27-year-old kid, and I finally had some money.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, I can go out to eat. I can go shopping and buy new clothes or whatever it is I was buying.
Right.
I can't even remember. That's the best part. Right?
So the first big bump was kind of managing your head and your
managing
behavior.
My money.
Right.
It was a huge bump for me, and I found that in the wintertime, I'd have to go back to work. So every winter, I'm like, I got to build up my reserves again. And I'm like, you know what it is? I'm just so busy, I don't have time to spend money. So I realized quickly I was not managing my money, you know.
Or your time.
Yeah, and I was a young kid.
Right.
And we all have to figure ourselves out. And I didn't take a class on owning a business. I didn't go to college. They didn't teach me this in high school. I was really good with my finances all the time. I was very, I budgeted well, but I didn't reserve very well. Or when I did, I somehow had no problem spending my reserves. When
I think that's a problem even for seasoned people. You know, I mean, that you don't put the reserve away and you don't. So that was your first big bump, was kind of managing yourself and your money and your time.
Yes.
What was the big thing you did to overcome that?
Learn to save. Learn to put a pillow away. I want to say, I tell people this all the time. Being a business owner, it's about, it's not just selling and making money. It's also managing your money,
right,
and building a reserve. I was running this morning with some of my friends, and I was telling them I just had this great week. The last 7 days, I've just been killing it, and I said, the last couple of months have been brutal. And he goes, sometimes it separates a good business owner is the guys that weather the storm, because it's only a matter of time before it's going to start raining
Something
again,
happens,
and you're going to start landing work. So businesses have this. They have.
Ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and it's up and down all the time. So if you can weather the down times, the up times are always great.
So you got to put the nuts, like the squirrel, away for when there's no.
Yes.
When there
so
was
the
no
trick
nuts.
is making your reserves, building them up. They definitely it helped me sleep at night.
Yeah.
Putting
so
that
keep the
pillow
pressure
away.
off of
Yeah. When like I try to always have like one payroll set aside. Like no matter what, I can make.
So you don't have that panic
I can
all
go
the
out
time.
of business and I have payroll covered. One payroll.
Right.
And really, you should have much more than that. But that's a start.
Right.
But it
How many
helps.
folks you got working for you?
We're usually between 15 and 17 in season, so we're getting back into season again.
So it kind of goes with the season.
Yeah.
So what's the thing that concerns you the most right now? Because what I've learned is that it's hard to say fear after you've been in business for a while. It's more of a concern or an opportunity to grow, or what is it right now that kind of gnaws at you a little bit?
When there's stagnant growth, probably scares me the most, because we were talking about it earlier, but I'm more afraid of having to get a job,
right,
than anything else. I always think to myself, I haven't had to push a lawnmower in a long time. There's no way I'm going to take a job. I would rather push a lawnmower. I would rather run one of the crews at this point and cut back there,
right,
or maybe cut back some overhead, or cut back somewhere else. There's got to be a way to keep the business going. I've always been able to. I've been doing this 17 years now. I've gone through enough up and downs to know that I'll just make some cutbacks. I'll just I'll figure it out, because I'm way more afraid of having to get a job and just be committed to someone else's schedule. Freedom is what business owners. That's why we do this.
Flexibility.
I mean, when I had a job, I used to work at Coco's. I was a cook, and then I was a waiter, and I hated working weekends. I hated working the evening shift. I hated working holidays. And that's one thing that I love about my business. We're closed on the weekends. We'll catch up on weekends if we have to, if there's a lot of rain. But that's usually the only time.
And usually your clients is not interested in seeing you on a Sunday or a Saturday.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're not even making the decision. You're kind of forced to be closed, right?
Yeah. Nobody wants their yard mowed on Thanksgiving.
Right.
So we're able to. Our clients are very comfortable and flexible with us, and I try to be a good leader here. And so a lot of my employees, I always tell them, these jobs have to get done. We know Thanksgiving week, if you want Thursday and Friday off, I have no problem with that, but these customers have to be done. Right. They have to be happy. On some of our commercial accounts, we can get away with stopping by for less time, because they know if it's a holiday week, as long as the property looks clean and the grass is mowed, maybe we don't have to trim on that cycle. So a lot of times they're flexible with us, as long as we can get all the properties looking nice that week, so that going into the holiday they don't have a mess at least.
So it sounds like you've got a fear that I hear a lot in these interviews is really continuing to grow.
Yes.
And you've done some things. We talked before the interview. You've joined EO.
Yeah.
You've done some things to kind of, as Josh Farley, who's also a fellow EO guy, he was the first guy in this interview. He's been working on sharpening the saw.
Yeah.
And he actually said that he got a new saw. That he didn't. The not going to college is another thing that a lot of successful business owners actually have in common, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. That you do a lot of reading and a lot of research, and you try to inspire yourself with other business owners that are kind of toughing it out too, right?
Absolutely. Every time we have a meeting in our forum, it's fires you back up. If you're working daily, sometimes you forget your direction or your purpose. Those meetings just definitely fire you up and you're ready to go. And you see other people's success and you're like, you feel good for them. It inspires you, and then it's just like that fire gets relit. It's awesome.
So we talked a little bit about who these videos are for. And one of the folks that I really like to speak to in these videos are the people that are kind of still doing the 9-to-5 thing. They're still working for somebody else. They're still waiting tables. But they've got an idea. But they've got that thing that they haven't been able to get over yet. What can you tell them about what you've learned about being fearless? Because if you're an entrepreneur and you've been in business for 17 years now, is that right? Yeah. You've learned a little bit about how to manage your fear. What can you tell people about how you've learned to manage your fear and be fearless?
Managing money has been a big step in that process. God, it's been so long since I've even thought, like I said, I'm more afraid to go to have a job now. I mean,
it reverses after a while, doesn't it?
Oh goodness! I mean, it's what time is it right now? It's 9:45. I'm doing an interview with you.
Yeah.
If I had a job, I'm not sure I'd be able to do that.
Right. Or there would be a reason for it, really, right?
Sure. And I've got afternoon. I have a coffee appointment right after this.
Yeah.
And I'm working because I'm networking.
Right.
But really, my schedule's pretty flexible. I call it freedom. The freedom is. It's the juice is worth the squeeze. If you can figure out how to manage your money and budget well, if you can get your costs down. I guess recommend to somebody that's starting, if you get your bills down and just be conservative and build up your reserves when things are going well. Obviously, I wouldn't just quit my job and just jump right into a business unless I had some sort of pile of money somewhere, some savings. I would probably just start doing some stuff, some moonlighting, in the evening or on the weekends. I have other landscape buddies that did just that. They, they would work on the weekends and until they were so busy on the weekends, they're like, I don't have a life. And they're like, what, I can live because my costs, I've been managing my costs so well that I can live off the income I'm making on the weekend. But if I had all week to do this, I could grow.
Right.
And when they took that step, it just blew up. And it usually happens that way. Early growth is much easier, I think, than growth from where I'm at now.
Right.
It's hard, to
get to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, coming with the first couple 100,000 in sales, it sounds crazy. It sounds like so much money, but it comes a lot quicker than if you're at $1 million in sales the next 100,000. You know, everyone says like your first million's easiest, and maybe that's the case if you had $1 million in the bank. But when it comes to gross sales, it's hard. You know, if you're making 100,000, it's not that hard to double to 200,000. But if you're at $1 million, it's definitely a lot harder to double to 2 million.
2 million, yeah.
So you got to figure 100,000 is only 10% of $1 million. So it's easier to get to there probably when you're at $1 million. But the first couple 100,000, I don't think was all that difficult to get, you know.
Which is, I think, important for people to realize
They
that, you know,
should
to replace
realize,
your salary at work is probably the easiest part, but to get to the next level is the next stage of growth.
And I wouldn't worry about matching your salary at work. You know, I wouldn't think of it like that. I would think of it as like, here are my bills. This is what I need to live and eat. If you can get that down to where the minimalist that is in me
Right.
or is in you,
Right.
if you can get that down, go off that, and anything extra should be just awesome, and set it aside when you can and build those reserves if you don't have them. But I always recommend reserve. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a savings, you'll sleep better at night.
And we talked a little bit before about the interview. Is one of the reasons why you do things like EO and networking is to stay inspired, and somehow inspiration keeps you from being afraid because you're reminded of what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Eli, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking time out to do the interview. I look forward to seeing you on May 5th for the opening.
Okay.
And I hope you have a really fantastic day.
Thank you.